Hey there, if this is our first time meeting, I'm Kenny, here with Jeremy, and here we talk about life, faith, and mostly frivolities. No,
Frivolities. That was
frivolities.
important that we get that right because
Anyway,
the first time you said that, you said, what
yeah,
is it, life, faith? And I could have
yeah.
sworn that this is why I laughed the first time. I could have sworn you said for the ladies. And I was like, oh, really? Is that what kind of show this is now?
Anyway, so we're live. It's 9:45. We're live Eastern Time 9:45 every week on Mondays, and you're listening to Small Talks Radio. So the question of the day is, what does screwed mean?
What does screwed mean? Okay, this is actually by incident and of interest to us right now because I was tutoring earlier today with a student and trying to put our notes into text format so that and I was doing this through Messenger, Facebook Messenger. It just so happens that I got Kenny here on my Facebook, and he was at the top. And so when I started typing my notes back to my student, I wasn't actually sending them to her. And so this is the exchange here.
Oh,
She
read it.
asked,
Or yeah, we can go through the conversation.
yeah, let's see what we got here. So she asked me what screwed means or what screw comes from. And I was like, well, it's important that sort of like the metaphorical meaning that goes along with it. And screw, so this is all that Kenny gets. I type screw have sex with. We're screwed. And he's like, context? And I thought this was my student saying, like, well, what context would you use that word in? And I was like, okay, well, I can come up with something. So Kenny gets this. Well, we're out of gas and it's 20 miles to the nearest gas station. We're screwed. And he's like, okay, that's going to cost you. Do you have family? And I said, I got screwed. Somebody took advantage of me. I screwed it up. I screwed up. This is just trying to, I don't know, no idea why she was asking me these things.
So so you still thought I was
I still thought this was my student,
yeah,
and then
so the context is I get this random message saying screwed, have sex with, we're screwed. So I'm like, what? So yeah, like you guys heard, it was context. I'm like, what do you
yeah,
mean? And then he's like, we're out of gas and we're 20 miles from any gas station. I'm like, you must have family or something. Can they bring some over?
and
That
I'm
was my
still
train
going
of
on.
thought. And he's like, I got screwed. Someone took advantage of me. I'm like, what you do? You try to help out like someone at 40 miles out or 20 miles out, and they siphon all the gas out of
Yeah, so he
the tank.
sends a message
I'm
that's like,
like,
"Did they siphon?" I'm like, "There's no way my student knows what that would mean with this." Oh man, I'm not talking to one of my students. So then I was like, okay, So I'll explain later. I'm tutoring." So that was the end of
yeah, no, I
that
actually
little
thought you were like stuck in
exercise.
the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
like, at least you're in Arizona, so you might have family around that can bring gas over.
Yeah, nope, we're totally fine. But with that said, there's some fantastic examples of the word screwed in context. And it's actually,
Right.
I don't know, it's one of those like colloquialisms, like slang words that you use. And you don't really think about like, how would I define this technically? Mostly because that's how slang works. And so we know screw, like to have sex with. I told her that it was very similar in grammar to the F word. You can use it basically as a substitute for it in most ways. You get screwed over, you screw someone,
Right.
whatever.
Oh,
But
that's
like what?
actually a good example because the F word can mean either just like a curse word or like when you stump your toe, you can say it to fornicate. Oh, it is. You can fornicate as well. So it's literally the same thing, depending on context.
Yeah, yeah, and
Huh.
so the grammar of it's about the same. You use it in the same kind of way. I don't know what you would that. So the parentheses up there where it says someone took advantage of me, I got screwed. That's what it means in that scenario. In if you were to say like I screwed up, you ruined something. She said ruined. I thought that was a pretty good one. Um, or I messed it up, but even like messed it up. What do we mean by that technically? How did you write this in an academic paper? How would you take these meetings and write them more properly?
Hmm.
I screwed up.
Does the student know the
Incidentally,
story?
I
Or
was screwing up while I was sending this to you. So that's just this
exactly.
beautifully wrapped incident right here.
Yeah.
Um, I guess you could do more technical words like blunder.
So for the
Uh,
last 7 hours or so, I thought he was actually screwed.
oh,
I'm just like, what's up? No, no, no. But then it's kind of weird because I'm like, you're probably tutoring now.
Yep.
and then
Yeah,
you're
I'm
middle of
on
the
the
road.
highway. I've got my
Middle
phone
of
out. Like,
the
well,
highway.
I gotta
So
do my job.
I do know in the States they generally have like a unlimited data plan. So I'm like, are you tutoring online, in your
Yep.
car in the middle of the
I
street?
mean, I could have had the capacity for it, but would I do that? I have started tutoring while I was driving. It's not advisable, but you can do it. Uh, yeah, nope, not stuck on the side of the road. Just not paying attention to who I'm talking to.
Oh man, that's something.
Yeah.
So we on the subject of talking about this, I guess we'll go back to. We have time, so we'll go back to our previous subject, or at least our original subject for the day is undergrad, the new high school diploma, because it's related to
Talk about
education.
getting screwed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So this is the undergrad, the new high school diploma, and my context is that years and years ago, people went into high school. I mean, even I guess a generation or two ago, it's very common not to go to high school and then just get into the trades or do work that your parents did, and that's how people got by. But you know, uh, with advancement of human and culture and all these things, um,
Yeah, like my
it's
grandpa
yeah,
did.
like most college education, not all, but
Hmm.
a lot of college education seems to be that stepping stone or just a piece like a prerequisite for a job nowadays, and has had we devalued the meaning of college and
Higher
diplomas
education.
and exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, my grandpa didn't even graduate from high school. He's doing fine. They're all retired and totally taken care of.
I don't think
Uh,
we'll retire with our many degrees.
yeah, no, it's the yeah, and we'll have paid back a whole bunch of debt if that. Yeah, we're in a gross situation. What's interesting though is that like historically, if you go back, you don't even have like high school form things. You have like schoolhouses and things like that, but you don't have like the huge high school uh, format that at least the two of us would have grown up with. I think most people alive now would have grown up with something very similar to that, at least in developed countries and even some developing ones. Before that, you would have this sort of, well, first off, you'd probably do the job that your father did if you were a man. If you were a woman, you'd probably look for a guy who was doing the job that his father was doing. Alternatively, if your parents were rich or the situation worked out a certain way, you'd be an apprentice to somebody. And the idea is you get done with, well, whatever level of education you needed, depending on the location and the period of history. And and you would work on under somebody that like knows the field, and they teach you what they know, and they make you into a master within so many decades. And that seems to me a whole lot more practical than throwing general
I
education
mean,
at somebody for a solid like 20
right.
years or
So,
whatever.
because you would be job ready because always grew up in that sort of environment.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd be a lot more proficient at your job and more efficient and stuff like that. And going all the way back to Jesus's time, Jesus was a carpenter because Joseph was a carpenter,
Mm-hmm.
and I think most of human history. I mean, there are people that switched careers or did different things. Um, for anyway, but vast majority of I guess human like the work that people did is based on the previous generation of their family. Like you said, if your grandfather was a smith, then you're a smith.
Yeah,
And
surnames come up pretty much immediately.
well, okay, yeah. For example, that's not what I meant. Not yeah. You're
Well, that's related. That's where you got your surname
uh,
from.
well, I guess.
Often, not all the
Well,
time, obviously.
yeah. It depends. Yeah, that's not in Korea because actually
That's a bit of a different
it's
story.
quite
So I
it.
guess it's a European thing.
No,
If that.
no. So in Korea, for at least until quite recently, like only a couple hundred years ago, people didn't really have last names unless you were of
Mm.
royalty and or of given like the king would
Mm.
give someone a last name as a what do you call it? Like it's given to them like an honorarium or like
Yeah,
as a
that kind of
gift or
thing.
some sort of their achievement or something like that. So it was very rare for a person to have a last name. So when after the Japanese came, and even before that, um, there. So the reason why you see um like a whole bunch of Kims and Lees and stuff like that, like what is it like? Everybody knows a Kim or a Lee. It's because when the system allowed them to adopt a last name, even though they're not royals, right? Like when it became a little more modern, everyone, you know, they wanted to be because Kims and Lees were the last or the names of
The royalty at the time,
royal
the
families. So everybody
aristocracy.
wanted to have that last name because it actually meant something versus just a name to tell you who you are. So because it was the last name of royalty, right? So that's why
Mhm.
a lot of um, Koreans have that last name, either Lee or Kim, and not until like even maybe like 50 years ago or something like that. Like people try to buy their way into what the Koreans call chokbo. It's like genealogy tree,
Mhm.
like ancestry or whatever.
You get yourself like put into
Yeah,
like relation to someone of
There's a
high
book
standing.
that's kept, yeah, and then it keeps on getting
Wow.
updated every few years with names in it, and then people would buy into that
Hmm.
and then try to get their way, so.
I wonder how effective that was, because there's a classism sort of laden in
Yeah,
that. Because
even my like parents, well, not I don't know my parents, but like even until my grandparents, they were very classist. Because the way I was like when my grandmother talked to me, she's like, "Oh, you guys have chokbo or like history, and like
Mhm.
you guys are not commoners, right?" I'm like, I think I'm like 71st like generations apart from like the first king of Korea or something. Yeah.
What I think, mathematically speaking, like almost all Koreans would be related at that point, because the way that just
Oh, it's not.
genes disseminate.
It's
Seven
not because
hundred.
like even Korean. Well, like even because there's, huh? Maybe I don't know, but I'm
There's
pretty
a. Do
yeah,
we plug other channels? There's a number file on this. If y'all haven't watched Number File, that channel's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
There's a
maybe so.
number file on how like just about everybody, is it in Europe or everybody in the UK or something, has like royal blood in them from so
If you
many
go up somewhere,
generations
yeah,
back.
I
Yeah.
think like third of the world, third of the population of the world or something like that have a blood of Genghis Khan
Yeah, the
or
Genghis Khan
descendants of it.
thing.
Yeah.
That's funny to think about. I don't know how that works at all.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. I think like almost all of like Hungarian and like Eastern European, they all have Genghis Khan's blood. So like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm
Mm,
pretty sure like most Koreans and like Chinese and all of that. I mean, because when they raided, they had lots of kids,
right. Yeah.
and then their
Yeah.
kids. Anyway, yeah. So that's
That's what gets the
interesting.
genes
Yeah.
out. Hmm. What? How did we get onto this? We got into surnames. We were going in there from. You said something about Smiths.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
because I'm like, oh, you inherited your like parents and grandparents' occupation, but then
yeah.
I think you've alluded towards that's how they got their name.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Because you inherit the last name as well now,
Yeah, they go kind of hand in hand. Or at least they used to go hand in hand.
yeah,
I don't know
but
about
then that
now.
name
Mm,
back then meant more than just. I mean, it could be like just like occupation being passed down. Your name,
yeah. You
it's
could also get
yeah, because your
what
name is
I'm.
tied to what you were doing.
Mm, what I'm wondering about this current phase is because, well, first off, people are already getting disenfranchised with like regular 4-year universities and getting out with a psychology degree or whatever, and it doesn't do anything for them. That kind of thing has definitely been noticed. There's a lot of careers that don't respect degrees quite like they used to,
Yeah, like
and because
Facebook
everybody's
and Tesla and stuff, they don't require a degree anymore. They don't care.
yeah, and there's better ways to test people's proficiency in any particular field. So, um, what I'm wondering is this kind of like, but we've already been kind of pushed forward in moving past that phase of 4-year universities, and now we've got this whole COVID thing where we're doing so many things online, including education. Education is a big part of this. I tutor people online privately, and I wasn't expecting this to work all that well, but people are plenty happy, or at least my clientele are happy to like pay for people to teach in in ways that the kids aren't getting from school, or in ways that the parents can't teach, and so they find someone like me to do that sort of thing. Now, what I'm wondering is, where does this all lead eventually? Where, I mean, I'm getting these kids one-on-one. It has that almost apprentice feel to it, where instead of, I get a class. I don't have classes. I've taught 2 at a time, and that was already close to overwhelming. I'd prefer this one-on-one type of thing. Would people pay for this type of thing on, I don't know, a grander scale instead of paying tuition to go somewhere? What if you had someone whose job was just to teach one or two individuals?
People do that.
Yeah.
In different, not, it's called tutoring, right? But
well, yeah.
but it's more common in like different things, such as you take classes. A lot of people take classes, right, for pottery or like guitar lessons. It's the same thing, right? Where it's essentially not like a smaller class or private tutoring. It's I mean, people prefer to do that just because it's you get more out of it. There's more personal attention. I mean, it'd be ideal if all classes were like that, but also money gets in the way, right? I mean, a lot of the reasons why we have a 30% class like ratio to instructor is because that's what they can afford, right? So
and it's hard to say exactly where the ways would throw all this, but there's a lot of things going into this where like homeschooling is getting its own sort of revisiting, sort of. I think that's been on the rise because education standards have changed a lot, and there are certain people that aren't on board with those ideologies. Other things like tuition, having to pay for that for like a whole family, and with the online stuff, it's just another aspect to look into. Like, how does education change in terms of its like general form after we found out, we can do a lot of this stuff online, and there's different ways that people can teach, and the value of education probably changes significantly after this type of thing. What are people willing to pay for? What seems worth that money? What kind of attention do they want? I don't know, but being in education right now, I'm kind of excited to see things shift around because I don't like the way that I grew up. So
yeah, like a lot of I noticed a lot of homeschooling now, and like you talked about, people are dissatisfied with the current system, but a lot of it, I guess it's a combination of different things. It's that plus now a lot of schools are closer, they're online anyway, and or some people fear, or I guess they want to be protective of it, or preventative, right, of unnecessary risk, so they would rather keep their children at home, right, for that. So with all these different factors coming into play, I think homeschooling is a lot more viable, or I guess more appealing option for a lot of these families. And a lot of people, they work from home now too, so they get to spend more time with their children. And before, it didn't matter. Like if they were working home and they had to drive their children, and that took time out. But like if they're just home anyway, just give them stuff to do. A lot of people are a lot more hands-on, and they get into the stuff. But
my 8-year-old brother is going through some program where like the classes are actually online. Like he talks to his teacher maybe once a day, something like that. But they've got actually a system that came with the textbooks, and you basically just you stream like a YouTube channel. These they're not even lectures because it's a classroom of little kids, and it's a wonder. That seems like a step towards something bigger. I wonder what that can actually evolve into, where you can have stuff like, if you don't have a brick and mortar school, you don't need your teachers to be all in one place. And so imagine a school that's actually scattered throughout, however many, whatever area, and probably still within a state in the States, just because standards are kind of weird. But if you were to pick your teachers for a school based off of not just their availability and location, you can basically, we need a science teacher for this high school, and you find someone that's qualified to do that kind of thing but doesn't live around, you could very easily imagine a high school that's totally online. I don't know if this is necessarily a step forward, because the social aspect of high school is such a big deal, and if you remove that, you're going to end up with a very different society. I mean, all right, in my high school they had this thing called Freshman Academy, where they separated the freshmen from the upperclassmen, and they had classes in a different part of the building than everybody else. And you ended up with this really, really, I don't know, immature group of people, because they came out of their middle schools as kings, and then they went into high school with basically no resistance. And those social factors are actually quite important to the way they develop. And so if you were to, remove this, I don't even know if it would be a bad thing, but it would certainly be very different if you were to take high school students out of that social setting. There's no predicting that. That'd be difficult.
So I guess like if you're, I mean, I don't know. It might be just a different type of relationships that they develop because people make friends playing games online anyway.
That's true, but
Discord,
what
stuff,
kinds?
Reddit. You have Facebook groups. So, I mean, you can still have. I mean, there's
Right.
something like having real, friends, but I don't know. Everything's digitalized now, and I think it's possible that it's obviously a different type of relationship,
Yes,
and
exactly
the
that.
experiences are different. But I don't know if it's better or worse because I do value both, but I think it's more different than worse per se.
I
I
don't
mean,
know
for
how to
me,
evaluate it. Would be
I don't mind interacting like that, but for some people without that social, I mean, like physical, whatever, um, not everyone has same
it would drive those people
capabilities and
crazy.
stuff. So, yeah, some people might go nuts. I'm also an introvert, and I'm a homebody, so I like staying home anyway. So it works out for me.
Yeah. Well, this ultimately would turn into a completely different conversation. Just what is the nature of those relationships, and since things have been getting digital, what's the nature of the relationships that we have now, and where they're going, how they differ from the past, and what have been the consequences of that shift. But again, that's another big
Yeah, no.
conversation.
I think like when yeah, it's a whole nother thing. But when we got telephones, it was another direction, and we can.
Yeah, what
Then
criticism
when we
was
had
there at
internet,
that
and then you
time?
had long distance calls, and all that stuff came in. Skype came in,
Mm.
and now we have Zoom, and things evolve. Uh, People say like writing emails is not like nothing like writing handwritten letters and stuff. There's no emotion, and I'm like, yeah, but you can't do that. I mean, it's just different. So
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, again, that'll get into other
yeah.
big stuff. Lots of things to talk about on the nature of relationships. There are entire fields devoted to that.
Mhm.
But with that said, that's all the time we have for today, folks. And until next time, I'm not Chinese, and neither is that guy.
What?
See you later.